Hey there, welcome back to Popular Crime, and if you are new to our channel, welcome. I'm Heather, and today we're looking into one of our modern mysteries, the bizarre death of Brandon Lee. Brandon Lee was shot and killed on set while filming the cult classic The Crow in 1994. Many called this movie the most cursed movie production of all time. The Crow was released in 1994, and at the time, comic book movies for adults weren't the norm like they are today. Back then, you had Tim Burton's Batman in 1989 and Batman Returns in 92, and that was pretty much it until The Crow hit the screen. And I remember seeing this as a kid in the movie theater and loving it. It's what really got me into comics, and I loved the story, and of course, Brandon Lee. The movie was an adaptation of a comic book series of the same name written by James O'Barr. The series was inspired by two true stories. One was O'Barr's personal tragedy of losing his fiancé at a young age before they were about to get married. She was hit by a drunk driver and died. O'Barr found himself overwhelmed with grief and rage, and after many unsuccessful attempts of trying to numb himself to the pain that he felt, he decided to channel all that energy into his writing. The second story of inspiration for this series came from a real story about a couple being killed for a $30 engagement ring. O'Barr later said that became a focal point, the idea that there could be a love so strong that it could transcend death, that this person's soul would not rest until it could set things right. This restless soul would become the main character, Eric Draven. Now, originally O'Barr considered Johnny Depp and Christian Slater as ideal actors to play Eric Draven. River Phoenix was offered the role but turned it down. Brandon Lee then expressed interest, and he was so much more enthusiastic about it than Depp or Slater that he got the role. And fun fact about this movie, crows were not used in the film. They used 5 different ravens for filming, and because most of the filming was done at night and ravens are diurnal, they had to adjust their sleep patterns to film. And ravens are surprisingly smart and respond very well to training. Many people know the name Brandon Lee, even though The Crow is considered to be his big breakthrough role. His father was the late great martial arts expert Bruce Lee. Brandon was born in Oakland, California on February 1st, 1965, to Bruce and his mother Linda Lee Cadwell, who also was a martial artist. His father died at the young age of 32 when Brandon was only 8 years old, and his death happened in what appeared to be mysterious circumstances at the time. There were many conspiracies surrounding his death, and to this day, there still are. Bruce Lee officially died in Hong Kong of cerebral edema, which is a buildup of fluid in the brain. He was said to have had an allergic reaction to medication that he took for a headache. But after Bruce's death, Brandon moved to Seattle with his mother and sister. He knew that he always wanted to act, but he was more interested in drama, not martial arts roles, although he was trained in martial arts by his father pretty much as soon as he could start walking. Brandon worked on a few movies prior to The Crow, and when he took the role of Eric Draven, he was 28 years old and he was engaged. He was actually scheduled to marry his fiancée, Eliza Hutton, in Mexico shortly after filming wrapped up, and he was in the last days of filming the movie when he died. Now, many people in the business have said that this movie was plagued by misfortune from the very beginning, and a lot of mistakes were made that ultimately cost Brandon his life. This movie was filmed in Wilmington, North Carolina at Carol Co. Studios. Entertainment Weekly wrote an article chronicling all the incidents that happened on set, and these all happened prior to Brandon's death. And all these events and Brandon's death has caused many people to believe that this movie was cursed from the beginning. The most serious incident occurred on February 1st, the first day of shooting for this tale of a rock and roller, Brandon Lee, son of Bruce Lee, who returns from the dead to avenge his murder. At Carol Co. Studios in Wilmington, North Carolina, a carpenter, Jim Martitius, 27, was severely burned on his face, chest, and arms when live power lines hit the crane in which he was working. He's recovering and can talk now, says Martitius' wife, Cindy, who's about to give birth. The doctor said in 2 years he'll be done with surgery. In 5 years, he'll be as normal as he'll get. That was only the beginning. On the same day Martitius was hurt, unit publicist Jason D. Scott was involved in a minor car accident in downtown Wilmington. That evening, a Crow equipment truck mysteriously caught fire. Among the other mishaps, A disgruntled sculptor who had worked on the set for several days apparently went berserk on the back lot and drove a car through the studio's plaster shop. According to a production source, he was a brilliant sculptor, but he was impossible to deal with. Needless to say, he was immediately let go. And then a construction worker slipped and drove a screwdriver through his hand. It was serious, says publicist Scott, but it's not like he's going to lose the use of his hand. And then a drive-by shooting occurred not far from a Crow location in downtown Wilmington. The alleged perpetrator was actually stopped by one of our barriers, says Scott, so in a way we're contributing to the justice system. The final blow came with a March 13th storm that destroyed Crow's sets, as well as some of Ethan and Joel Coen's The Hudsucker Proxy, which was also filming on the Carol Co. lot. Then fast forward to March 30th. Actors were called on set to start filming, and one of the first scenes of the movie was actually being filmed at the end of the production. Brandon Lee's character, Eric Draven, arrives home to the apartment he shares with his fiancée, Shelley, with groceries. When he walks in the door, his girlfriend has been assaulted and they are both killed. Now in the scene, the character, Fun Boy, played by Michael Massey, shoots Eric as he walks into the apartment with the bag of groceries. A scene like this would typically involve shooting blanks from the gun and activate a squib, where fake blood packets would be placed on the actor, which in this case would have looked like a gunshot wound to the abdomen. Let's take a look at the explanation of what happened during that scene from Unsolved Mysteries. They were filming a pawn shop scene and they needed items from an actual pawn shop, so they went to one of the local pawn shops in Wilmington. A stagehand gathered hundreds of props. Among them was a box of live .44 Magnum bullets. According to Detective Pettis, the first link of the fatal chain of events was now in place. They dressed the setup with all the items they received. They placed the .44 caliber rounds on a counter that was used in the scene. The stunt coordinator said when he found the live ammunition on the set, he was livid. The bottom line rule is that you don't have live ammunition on a set. The stunt coordinator locked the bullets in the trunk of his car where they would remain for another 2 weeks. It was one of these bullets that would eventually kill Brandon Lee. Understanding the tragic events to come required some knowledge of bullets and blanks. A live bullet has a lead tip, a load of gunpowder, and an explosive charge known as a primer. Once the trigger is pulled, the hammer hits the primer. The primer then detonates, igniting the powder. The explosive force of the burning powder shoots the lead tip toward the target. Blanks are bullets with a harmless disc of cardboard instead of a lead tip and have a smaller gunpowder load. They may have 1/4 or 1/2 of the normal charge. When fired, blanks create a visible but harmless flash. A dummy round looks like a bullet but cannot be fired. It has the cartridge and the lead tip only, no gunpowder, no primer. On the set of The Crow, the crew needed blanks. To save time, the fateful decision was made to modify the live rounds that they had. According to Detective Pettis, the crew removed the lead tip and powder, leaving only the cartridge and primer. So what they did is they fired off some of the blanks that they had made and took those casings and put the lead tips back in the casings. But what they didn't do was check the primers to see if they had all been fired when they made the dummy rounds. So they got some mixed up. So they made at least one dummy round that had a primer still intact. That one dummy round had an explosive primer and a lead tip. The crew used the dummy rounds for close-ups of someone firing a .44 Magnum. The detective said that at least 2 people heard a popping noise. No one realized it was the sound of a primer firing, exploding with just enough force to dislodge the lead tip from the bullet casing and wedge it into the gun barrel. There it would remain, undetected, for another 14 days, awaiting its fateful meeting with Brandon Lee. Now, many serious mistakes were made during the scene. Obviously, they never should have modified live ammunition. Had someone checked the dummy cartridges when they removed them from the gun, they would have seen that the tip was missing, and that should have been an indication that something might be wrong with the gun, and it should have been inspected before use in another scene. And it's also standard practice for actors involved in gunfire scenes to wear bulletproof vests, even though blanks are being fired. It was also reported that the film's firearms supervisor had gone home for the day when the accident happened. With the supervisor gone, it's possible that the prop team did not know all the checks that needed to be done before using the gun in the scene. With all that being said, if a weapons expert had been on set, They would have instructed Michael Massey to aim to the side of Lee rather than right at him. Tricky camera angles could have been used to make it look like Massey was pointing the gun directly at Brandon. Now, no one on set knew that Brandon had actually been shot until the director said cut, and Brandon did not get up. He was rushed to the hospital around 1 a.m., and he was in surgery for about 5 hours. He had serious vascular and intestinal damage, in addition to stem bleeding. He lost so much blood that he needed 60 pints in blood transfusions. His mother and fiancé were rushed to North Carolina to be by his side, but Brandon died about 13 hours after arriving to the hospital. His cause of death was internal hemorrhaging due to the inability for his blood to clot. Now, this accident was devastating to everyone on set, but Michael Massey in particular was a mess. In an interview in 2005, he spoke out about the accident for the first time. He said, quote, "It absolutely wasn't supposed to happen. I wasn't even supposed to be handling the gun until we started shooting the scene and the director changed it," he said. "Afterward, I just took a year off and I went back to New York and didn't do anything. I didn't work. What happened to Brandon was a tragic accident. I don't think you ever get over something like that," end quote. It's been said that Massey never actually watched the finished movie because it was just too painful. Brandon was laid to rest next to his father Bruce at Lakeview Cemetery in Seattle. No criminal charges were filed, and it was deemed an accident by authorities. Brandon's mother did file a lawsuit for negligence that was settled. Brandon's fiancée, Eliza, was also included in the settlement. Once the news about this got out, many rumors came out as well. People said that the bullet was placed in the gun intentionally. Another rumor, which was completely untrue, is that they didn't reshoot the scene and you actually see Brandon's death in the movie. After this incident, that scene was reshot, and a lot of cutting-edge special effects for the time were used to finish the film. There had only been 8 days left of filming when Brandon was shot. Several stand-ins were used to finish the film. One of them was his friend Chad Stahelski, who would later go on to direct the John Wick movies. Now, this incident did cause the movie industry to really re-examine how they handled stunts and scenes like this when filming. It's no secret in the business that a lot of accidents happen, and many changes were made after this to make sure actors and crew are safe while filming. But this got me thinking about how this even happened the way it did. Now, leading up to Brandon's death, many people on set were upset with the working conditions. The budget for this movie was only $15 million, which is not a huge budget for a movie on this scale. Lack of funds probably meant that corners were cut and safety was not adhered to like it should have been. Before Brandon's death, his manager actually complained to producers, asking if they were trying to kill his client. Most of the shooting was done at night with artificial rain and winds most nights. Brandon would be barefoot and freezing. He reportedly lost 20 pounds, but even in these working conditions, he was described by everyone on set as never complaining and extremely personable. Now, when you're working on a film in the states of California or New York, you're working in a unionized state. There are more rules and regulation film sets need to abide by. In states like North Carolina, there isn't a union because it's a right-to-work state. Many production companies will hire less expensive, non-union employees. When a union is involved, sometimes the mere presence of one will keep companies on point when it comes to enforcing safety and scheduling regulations. North Carolina is actually one of the top movie-making locations in the United States because they don't have all the restrictions that New York and California have. So, would Brandon Lee still be alive today if the movie had been filmed in New York or California? We just don't know. But that is going to do it for today. Let me know your thoughts on Brandon's death and whether or not you think the production of this film was cursed. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our uploads. As always, stay safe, keep investigating, and we'll see you soon.